Hello, everybody. I'm Benjamin Billings. This is Sammy Sideline Scoop. Today I have Jason Barfield. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing good.
Good. For my first question, I want to ask is, as director of the broadcasting and digital media here at the athletics department, what kind of work do you do for the school and some of like day-to-day tasks you do?
So like the primary thing that we do is handle all the ESPN production.
Mm-hmm.
So I think roughly around 70 games a year that we produce for ESPN Plus. So, I think that's really a bulk of kind of the day-to-day stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, it's just all the additional content that we're doing. We currently have 2 podcasts, a live radio show, a studio show. So it's just that other extra content that goes into the whole package.
And then when you run these broadcasts and these the podcasts and the shows, are all of them student-ran production?
Yeah, the productions are pretty much all student run. I mean, there's me and Brian Duvall as the only 2 full-time people that are part of this. Everything else is run by students, and we've got a group of about 25 students right now who are involved in all aspects of the productions.
Now, that was in 2016 when you started broadcasting for ESPN. What was the process like of getting onto ESPN in that time?
So it was actually kind of crazy. Our first production was actually basketball.
Oh, really?
And we jumped right into it. We had been doing some streaming and we had used TriCasters and done stuff like that, but it was our first real ESPN production. And the first night we did it, we didn't have graphics for the first half of the game. And, it's just one of those things that, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong that first night, but it was part of a doubleheader. So like we got the first game out of the way and you had 30 minutes to get ready for game number 2. And, I look back to those early games that we did and just, it's astonishing how far we've come.
That's amazing. Now, you started the Bearcat Sports Media or Sports Network in 2008. What were some of the beginning struggles and challenges of starting that up?
I think the big thing for us was we had to learn the equipment. We had to just learn how to make everything work. Like we got a website that allowed us to stream, and we had never had that before. And so it was just a matter of, what do we need to put this together? And, I remember our first video stream, the website company mailed us a box, and it had a laptop, it had an encoder, and it had a video cable. And that was it. And in a mixer.
Oh, wow.
And with no instructions on how any of it worked. And so it was me and 2 of my students sat there that first day and set it all out on a table at the Coliseum. And we're like, okay, so now what? And, it's just a matter of trying to figure it all out.
So, and I know I've seen it recently with the new equipment and everything, of course. It's amazing what we've done here and everything you've done here, Brian. And I just want to ask, what are some of the biggest improvements aside from the equipment and everything you've seen at Bearcat Sports Network?
I think the biggest thing is just the student involvement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we first started doing this, I had 4 students who worked for me. And, we did a single camera stream with a mixer that was about 4 inches wide. And, so I think that was the biggest thing is we've grown the involvement of the students into this to the point where now, it's 25 students and it's a big production now.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And then, what are some of your favorite sports to broadcast? Because I know you've done play-by-play. You do it still for basketball, I've seen, and for baseball, you've done it. What are some of your favorite sports to do, broadcasting and play-by-play for?
Depends on what time of year it is.
Oh, okay.
I go by season. I don't do much football, just because football is a whole different animal. Yeah. So I typically will get on a football broadcast a year. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy football. Baseball as a sport, I think, is my favorite sport, and that's the one that I enjoy calling baseball, and I try to make sure I'm on as many baseball broadcasts as I can get on. So, if it came down to it, if I only could choose one, baseball is probably the sport that I enjoy the most to call.
That's amazing. And then during your or actually, what's some advice you have for some of the students here at Sam Houston, and specifically the ones working at Bearcat Sports Network, from your time at Sam, whenever you were a student, of getting that foot in the door and trying to get into sports media relations and production like that?
I think the biggest thing I tell everybody is do as much as you possibly can. When I was in school, we didn't have this. We didn't have Bearcat Sports Network, but I still worked for Channel 7 and I was sports director. I still worked and called games for 90.5. I called games for a radio station in Madisonville. I wrote for the student newspaper. I wrote for the Huntsville Item, and I ran my own website. So, I think it's just a matter. There's so, and in the number of outlets that are available now to get your content out there are so much more. So it's just a matter of getting involved. We've got so many opportunities and so many resources. There isn't an excuse for graduating and saying, well, I didn't get a chance to do this.
Yeah. And then I know that whenever you started your time here at the Sports Media Relations and Broadcasting and all that, I know that you did help with the development of like Bauer Stadium control room and the Don Sanders Johnson Coliseum as well. What was some of the process and like what did that look like doing that?
You know, each facility kind of has its own unique aspects of it.
Yeah.
You know, and none of them were built for broadcast. That's the other part. None of these facilities were built with broadcast in mind. So you have to get creative. So you have to look at Bauer Stadium, and we had a closet that was basically there, and it was a false elevator shaft. The room was not being used for anything, and so I walked the people who were designing the control room into that room one day, and I said, "This is the space we have. What can you do with it?" And so they did the measurements, and they took it back to their warehouse in Lubbock, and they basically rebuilt that room in their warehouse, and they constructed the whole thing there. So like each spot, we've had to find a place that we're going to say, okay, this is where we're going to set up. Now, how do we make everything fit?
Yeah. And then also along with that, and then your directing job here and your play-by-play. And I know I saw you did some sports editing as well. What has been your favorite position so far you've worked? Like you had the most fun at?
I really think it's this because I feel like everything I've done has kind of built to this position.
Yeah.
You know, I took a job in newspaper when I graduated because that was the first opportunity that I had to get a full-time job. You know, you had to have a full-time job when you graduated. So I went into newspaper. I took the newspaper job in Huntsville because I wanted to cover Sam Houston, and it got me closer to university. The first job that I had in the athletic department was not in media. I was actually doing facilities. But I took it because I wanted to work for the university. 2 years later, I got onto the media side of things, and that's where I kind of started building and adding things. And so while I was media relations, I kind of started adding the broadcasting piece to it. So I've kind of slowly built and built and built until I'm in the position where I am now, where I can solely focus on the broadcast side.
Because I know you did bring some awareness and everything when you worked on your time at 90.5. Like you were doing like sports, like aware, like I don't want to call it awareness, but like you were bringing it to the students of Sam and everything through the 90.5, right?
Yeah, that was interesting. You know, like I called my first game on 90.5 was a baseball game, and I did it my freshman year. And you know, I had friends who went to school at other places, and they told me they weren't allowed to even touch the equipment until they were juniors. So I think that was just another thing about being at Sam Houston was it gave me the opportunity to get on the stuff, get on it early, and really get involved.
Now, with all the time you've spent here at the broadcast, doing the directing and doing play-by-play, sports editing, where do you find time to do your free time and for your family as well?
There's not a lot.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
No, you know, both of my kids have gone through school and have graduated high school. I've got one who's out of college, one who's still in college, and they were active and they were busy. And, you know, there were nights where I was driving straight from work to a soccer field or going out to practice. And, you know, so it is tough. It is a balancing act. And this time of year when we've got basketball and baseball crossing over, and, you know, I'm on 24 straight days of work right now. And so you find your time and you take your time. I think the thing my family always would laugh at is when I did have a day off, I would go to an Astros game, go to a ball game somewhere else, and they're like, "Don't you want to step away from this when you're off?" And no, I like watching, I like watching a game where I don't have to work.
And then, what inspired you to like want to go into sports, like broadcasting, whenever you first joined Sam?
I think I wanted to be a broadcaster for like as long as I can remember. Like sixth grade, I think was the first time that I started telling people this is what I want to do. No, it's actually kind of funny. A friend of mine, my neighbor actually, who I grew up with, I haven't seen him in 20-something years. He brought his family out to a baseball game the other day. So he came into the booth while I was calling the game, introduced me to his kids. And between innings, he goes, "This is crazy." He goes, "This is what you said you always wanted to do." He goes, "Nobody does what they say in junior high that they want to do." And he goes, "This is wild that this is what you're doing."
Yeah, that's amazing. And then I know I've asked around a little bit about this, and I know there's some information that can be shared and whatnot. Can you give us any information by chance of where the football team might be playing in a year or two from now because of the stadium renovations.
Yeah, I have no clue.
No clue.
No clue. I wish I knew. You know, we've kind of heard 2 or 3 different stadiums that are possibilities. With the schedule just coming out, they've got to reach out to all the other stadiums and see what matches the best. I know there is a want to play everything at the same stadium just for a continuity standpoint. I just don't know if that's realistic. But we're 6 months from kick. I'd like to start putting some plans in place.
And these places that they're looking at, I'm assuming that they're going to have the broadcast capabilities for Sam Houston to be put on TV, hopefully.
That's what we got to figure out, you know, and that's certainly the hope. I think with a lot of stadiums that are being built now, there is, you know, room for that kind of stuff. But, I mean, we make it work here. Bauer Stadium was not built with television in mind, but we've made it work. So I feel like our home stadiums have presented enough of a challenge to us that we're going to be fine anywhere else we go.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you so much for your time. That's all the questions I had for you today. Is there any last comments or mentions or anything like you want to give for the students of Sam Houston? This will be on the Channel 7, so I just want to see if there's anything.
No, I think the big thing is kind of like I said earlier, if this is something you're interested in, you know, if this is an area you want to do professionally, you know, come see us. Come get involved and take advantage of the resources that Sam Houston has to offer, because there are a ton, and I feel like there are a lot of times that they don't all get utilized.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Jason.
All right, appreciate it.
Boston set to take on the Bearcats from Sam Houston State.
Team ready! Team ready! Again!
Watch it happen, observe it, watch the execution. Hey, Sam Houston. Yes, sir.
One-two offering coming, swing and a miss. Brindley gets the strikeout, and the Bearcats have won the Southland Conference for the 3rd consecutive season. Back-to-back-to-back champions, and the Bearcats will dogpile in front of the mound. What a run it has been. 3 years under head coach David Pierce, 3 Southland Conference championships for the Bearcats.
Back-to-back your 2014 Southland Conference champion, Sam Houston.